Okay, YouTubers, it's been a couple of years since I've given you guys an update on the Xs650 here, but this is basically what I've got so far. It's running. I've got it 90% tuned. I can point out some of the things that in the first 6 miles already need a little bit of attention, but other than that, mechanically the engine makes me giggle. I love riding this thing already. The the engine is just fantastic. I love it. It's been a long time since I've been out on the bike. So just for an update, I'm going from a Road King, an 07 Road King custom Harley, to a 78 Xs650. So this is an Xs650 special with a 77 tank on it. That was a trick, because the 78 special had dual petcocks. The 77 tank rather, had dual petcocks too, but not the CV constant velocity petcocks. So there was some magical fitting I had to do. The hole spacings were not the same, so I had to go to the Bridgeport and plug those holes and re-drill them to fit. That was a trick. So that's some of the things that have taken some time to fit. The other thing I had a problem with, as you can see, that just barely clears the top of the carb here, so I had to end up hiding a spacer under here to lift the back end of the tank up so it would clear. But so far it's not hitting, and if the worst comes to worst, I might have to nibble a little bit off the end of the lever there just to make it clear better. But one thing, guys, if you're going to go with the constant velocity carbs, which I have, and I haven't had any issues, I've been able to tune this spectacularly with these carbs, with the AirPods, but don't bother to do anything on your carbs without rebuilding your petcocks. If these have the original 1970s guts in them, I guarantee they're going to be petrified inside. You can buy rebuild kits for these, and not only did I rebuild them, but I took the time to lap the first surfaces inside to make them nice and smooth so they're not gouging into the rubber. But don't bother doing a bunch of rebuild work without taking some attention to where your fuel's coming from. Just a heads up. Other than that, really all I've got to do is take a look at my valve clearances again, since it's been running and up and down the road. It rides a little rougher than my Harley, but I'm comparing a 450 something pound motorcycle to a 960 or 80 pound motorcycle, so not comparing apples to apples. One of my major complaints about this bike, the clutch. This thing is miserable to adjust, and it's the crappiest design I've ever come across. It literally uses, I figured out why there's a constant oil leak in these, and you can actually see mine is still leaking because I have not successfully gotten the seal around that push rod, the clutch push rod. It's been a major magic trick, and I've burred the hole, but I somehow managed to tear the bottom edge of this one. This is my second attempt. I'm going to be going at a third. But the reason those seals go bad is because that clutch mechanism inside uses the end of the clutch push rod as a leverage point. So as you're pulling that clutch lever up inside, it's actually twisting on that clutch push rod rather. So I did change to the one-piece clutch push rod. I definitely would recommend doing that. If you have a two-piece with the ball bearing in between, scrap that, go to the one-piece. They're easy to get online, they're cheap, and it'll probably save you a little bit of wear and tear. But the reason those wear out, it pushes on the rod, wears the bushing on the inside of the push rod, and you end up with a sloppy fit on the clutch push rod, and you end up with a leaking seal after a while. So I'm going to order a new bushing. Not that there's a lot of play on this one, but I'm going to do the bushing and the seal all at once. So that's one of my complaints. What I really want to do is, if anybody has any experience upgrading to a hydraulic kit I've seen online, I'm just looking for a successful retro that I can work off of. Another thing I kind of overlooked was, or overkill, is I put 2 breather filters on the head. I had a donor bike that had this 2-valve breather head on it, and I figured, oh, that's cool. But now in retro, looking at it, it's a little bit overkill. I definitely don't think you need that much breather space on there, and I had to come up with a last minute way to engineer to hold this up onto the bike. But other than that, I love the paint's great. Jason at Backyards Customs really hooked me up with the paint, and he also hooked me up with a good, I had the seat reupholstered. The other original vinyl was lifting in the seat here, so I didn't like that, so he had a guy that did that for me. I don't even know who did it, but they did an awesome job. I appreciate that. One other thing little oversight, not having anything here. It looks really cool to keep all the dirt and stuff from building up off your tire into the engine area. That, in the future, I might take a look at maybe fitting something in there that doesn't, I don't know, it's gonna be tough because I like the way it looks, but functionally I'm finding dirt building up into the crevices of everything already, and I've only done 6 miles on this bike. But I'm in New England and we're coming out of winter. And another thing, when I've noticed, I've gone for a pretty good rip, put this thing through its paces on the gears, and I've had to come kind of hard on the brake. And I realized, coming from modern bikes, the stopping, a little bit on the shy. I'd like to stop a little quicker, but these forks I've already shaved, so I have no going back to put a second rotor or a left-hand brake caliper on there. If you guys are doing a build, I wouldn't mind having a little bit extra stopping power. It's a little bit more weight, but on the other flip side of that, you're gonna have a little more stopping power. Other than that, the Moto Gadget on this, I love the Moto Gadget gearing. I mean, all the switches are beautiful, they operate nice. I have the 3 switch here of the starter up front, so you can't bump it with your thumb while you're riding. And I've got horn, blinker, and on this side I went with blinker on the bottom and high, low beam, all in one switch. And you can turn your headlight on and off with this also, which is nice. Another thing, kind of staying out of the shadow here, but I put a bracket on here to get rid of the tachometer. Tuning, I ended up popping the tachometer back on, because I mean, you want to know where your rough RPM, you want to get the RPM set to 12 to 1400 RPM roughly. It's hard to get it down to an exact science, but I ended up during the tuning process popping it back in, and I just kind of propped it in here next to the headlight. I got some final things I'm going to end up machining. I'm going to I've left the empty space here. I'm going to get creative and put something on here, mill it up on the CNC. And on the ignition side of the bike, I'm also going to eventually, I don't know, I kind of like the classic chrome look of that, but I'm going to maybe mill up something out of aluminum here too. But other than that, that is the update on the bike. The Moto Gadget is definitely a go. I would definitely do that. I have the older M unit. There's a new, I think they call it the Moto Gadget Blue. I'm not sure. Not sure what the exact differences are, but it definitely makes for a way easier process in the wiring of this motorcycle. I've kept a lot of the original parts to this bike. Obviously, I didn't want a brand new looking motorcycle. It's 40 something years old, so I kept the old original fender, and I rigged up a way to mount it, which was a trick because this tail section is a little narrower than the frame, so I had to notch the frame out and squeeze it together and weld it. So making the original fender fit was a little bit of a trick, but I got it in there, and I made these brackets just to kind of dress up that area instead of leaving it naked like that. But I like the stock look. I wanted it to keep it, you know, I like the stock fender on the front. The mag wheels I wasn't too crazy about at first, but I've kind of learned to love them. They grow on you after a while, and it was a cost thing. I've got way too much money into this thing. It'll never get back. So you're doing this for the love of it. You're not doing it for the money. But I like the mag wheels. They grow on you. So that's an update on the bike. My last things I'm searching for are some bar end mirrors. I'm looking at some Rhizoma. They look really nice, high quality. I'm a little concerned though with the vibrations in these handlebars that I'm going to be able to see anything out of those mirrors, so I'm not even sure if they're worth putting on there, but legally I gotta have them. That's pretty much it. This thing's gonna be going on the road soon. I gotta do a little fine tuning still on the balancing the carbs. I did have to end up backing the jets out a little on the far side for my liking. I got them backed out probably 3.5 to 3 3/4 turns, which tells me I gotta go up a little bit on the main jet. But it's running great right now, but that's telling me I'm just about on the max side of cranking those jets out. So I gotta tinker with those, but it's running great right now. I'm probably gonna run it like that and keep an eye on it and make sure I'm not running too lean still. But that's it's hard to see if you can see that Xs650 shadowed in there. It's hard to see maybe, but I love it. It looks great. But hit me up if you have any questions. I'm sorry it's been so long, and checking out for now, and I'll keep you updated. I'm going to look into getting a GoPro, and I've got some friends up in the trees whistling at me. But have a good one. Stay safe.